All right, it feels like it's been a hot minute since we have looked in on these absolute leviathans of Age of Empires 4. Welcome back, folks, the 1v1 series, as we are underway with another one here on Dry Arabia between Marine Lord and BCQT. What do you mean, Pigeon? I only see Official Kick W and Strail Bora. That's the two. You are correct. Official Kick W, of course, most people know by now. Marine Lord. Very obviously, Marine Lord used to be just Kick W, I believe, and then changed it official Kick W when we had the anti-Kick W appear and some rip-offs of him. But his opponent, Strail Bora, in the red, playing as the French. That is indeed Beastie. Beastie, by the way, if you're unfamiliar with BCQT, I don't know what stone you've been crushed under. Not even lying under. You must have been crushed under it, stuck there, because you clearly didn't peek your head above and check what was happening in the Age of Empires 4 world. Because, of course, BCQT, a very talented and capable player with an RTS background as a professional player, actually coming into the Age of Empires 4 scene and just kind of stomping the leaderboards. For reference right now, BCQT's main account is sitting in second place, 1959 ELO rating, just 5 behind Lucifron, who's in first. Meanwhile, Marine Lord, well, we already know how good this guy is, right? StarCraft 2 Pro as well, came across to the land of Age of Empires and has been dominating a lot of these tournaments so far. He's currently sitting in 5th on this account, and then his main is sitting in 9th. So, gives you an idea of the level of skill being played here. And it is going to be between France and England. This matchup that we would have shrugged and been like, boring. Seen that before a few weeks ago, right? But ever since the Rus spam, ever since the China spam, it's almost like we've been missing this. We never get it anymore. So I'm actually quite excited to see this play out, especially on such an open map such as Dry Arabia, where, inherently in the past, you might argue France kind of had the edge with the Knights. But we're going to have to see if it's switched up. Because remember, ever since those days, Knights feel a lot more underwhelming, courtesy of the boosted damage to their counters in the crossbowmen and spears. It does give bounce back opportunities. I think what makes this matchup especially exciting is that both civs in this situation do have some TC booming potential, right? And I wouldn't be surprised if this game ends up going, Castle Age and then kind of a slog and a long wait into Imperial Age. Because I'll warn you right now, it's a long one. I might as well give that tiny spoiler to Twitch. I'm not going to give you the exact time, but of course, people on YouTube, you already know, duh. There's no way to really hide that from you. But yeah, so in this one, it's definitely going to be a slog out, and then in that situation, it'll be interesting to see who has that power in that late game. Is it going to be France with the arbitraries and the reduced kind of cost of the economy researchers, which are very expensive in that late game situation, or could it end up going the way of England and their kind of late game farming eco, as well as the powerful network of castles that I just feel like we don't get to see played out into true power as often as I like. Shout out to people like Hera, by the way, a player who's been playing a lot of England, and every time I watch him, I do feel like we learn something. We see a new way of kind of eking out that value out of the network of castles, because a lot of players do ignore it. And he understands when it's good and when it's bad, because it's a very weird teeter-totter, especially when you consider that right now, for those unfamiliar, Network of Castles, it's meant to give you a 25% attack speed buff across the board. Look, you're talking to a chair, by the way. But it doesn't work that way, I'm afraid. Yes, it's in fact quite bugged at the moment. It gives variable attack speed buffs to different unit types. So the main one that comes to mind for people would be the longbows. I can tell you that longbows get around, I think the specific number was about 14.7% increase in attack speed. So they are getting around half what they should be, just over half. I think the only one that comes close to the full 25% attack speed they're meant to get is, in fact, I think it was even Knights or Man-at-Arms, up at like 9, I think it's 21%, maybe around that number. There was a detailed post on this on Reddit, so shout out to the people who actually go through those numbers. They are smarter cookies than me, and they are more dedicated to the nerdism of math than I ever will be. Me, I'm just obsessed with big boom boom explosions. That's why I'm a play-by-play caster. So, opening-wise, we do, of course, see an advantage for the French player. French players always prioritize a lot more people in the build-up. Interesting that Marine Lord chose 4. Usually the golden number I see a lot of these England players go for is 3 people on the counter hall. The reason being is within the first minute and a half of fuel age, any surplus you're going to build up of resources is going to be spent straight away on the longbows. But I think different for Marine Lord here, you can see not really saving much food. saving up loads of wood. This suggests to me that he wants to drop a Rax and prep for Spearman, anticipating his opponent might go into the Knights. But it could also be that he's trying to do something we never see, which is England playing towards Scouts. I kind of hope not, because if you're going to do that, you're already going to be behind. As we can see on the other side, right? Beastie, he's already getting this stuff out. You can see he's spamming out a few Scouts. He should have a mill down here, which is researching the professional Scouts. And Marine Lord has not even bothered, so I'm glad of that. Instead, straight, we're already in the second TC. Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at the numbers. I clearly wasn't paying enough attention to the stone, how many people had on it. I thought the TC would be coming, but I thought maybe it'd be by about 6 minutes it starts getting instructed. But instead, Marine Lord not only putting down a second TC, but because he scouts out what his opponent is doing, right? When he sees the scouts coming out like this, he understands he's not going to get early pressured, which means that he can build this town center more aggressively positioned further away from his primary and not be punished. And more importantly, once it's complete, you see the steer away. Beastie, he knows he can't get these anymore because this allotment of deer are now going to be protected by the town center. This is a cool concept. And here's why. I've talked about before how broken professional scouts are. If you don't engage with it, you need to shut it out in some way, directly or indirectly. Otherwise, you are just losing the game. I think the optimal strategy, if you do not want to go for the deer, is to go for TC spamming. And this is the perfect example of how to do it, right? In this matchup, understanding your opponent is going to double down on the scouts and not have early Knights allows you to push out with these villages far away from the safety of your base, place this TC down in the hunting field, and absolutely deny a huge chunk of economy to your opponent. Because remember, each of these carcasses worth 350. It's like 2,100 food overall because there's 7 carcasses in an area. So you can see how that adds up very quickly. And also remember, you gather from them quicker, so you definitely want to have your hands on them. And really cool placement, because also, remember, it's going to give him this wood line, and as England, you do need a lot of wood in that mid-game. Yeah, you do. By the way, other cool thing to highlight as to why this was tipped off to Marine Lord as well, and it just speaks credence to the player. He already was prepping on the stone front when he saw this outpost get dropped. He then furthered in when he saw the scouts coming out, right? That was his secondary guarantee. He used 2 pieces of info to confirm what he thought was going to happen here. And now he's getting more info. Look what he knows. He sees, oh, stone gathering. I know what you're going to do. You saw me TC, and now you think anything I can do, you can do better? Challenge accepted. England, are we going to see him back in the stone? Or are we going to see him get in with some pressure? The problem he has right now is this TC compared to his is very defensive. And this is the smart play by Beastie. I love this identification. Right now, this game already, we're almost 8 minutes in, and it feels like these players are making such incredibly high-level calls, right? It's the way they're reading the game from each other. It's the dance, right? The macro dance, essentially, where you see me do something, now you do something, right? And we take it in turns. We pass the parcel back and forth, and we see at who the song will stop. Marine Lord trying to end that dance is going to start to move in with the longbow army. Now, there are a few knights out, and he only has 1 spearman out. With the scouts as well, you could get into a little bit of trouble here. He needs to be a little bit careful. However, luckily for him, Beastie, because there's only 1 knight so far, does not even have chivalry and doesn't even own a knight right now. In fact, you know, it's declassified. It doesn't exist. So, chivalry. This is frustrating. You just had that 1 knight. You want that value out of chivalry. Well, he's gone. So now you're going to have to get through the chivalry, then get a knight. This gives an opportunity to be pressured somewhat. The good news is that he's shifted his line towards the south, right, next to the TC. And this means that Marine Lord doesn't really have golden opportunities to strike, especially when this gold line is only manned by 6 people. So the outpost able to actually protect almost all of them. And it makes you wonder, is Marine Lord going to go back to gathering stone? You could, in this situation, understanding that your opponent is now trying to boom, and you could just try to outpace him still. But it is always France, right? And if you're on equal TCs, you're behind your opponent, right? You're at a disadvantage. So I think for him, he just instead wants to get an advantage through killing. And you can see the Marine Lord, he already has a 5, maybe 6 villager advantage here. He wants to keep that number. And he understands that as these lines expand, you become more greedy, right? You end up with 5 people at first on the mine. Then you end up with 10. Before you know it, you've got 15 people exposed in an area that can only be protected by an outpost that can store 5. And that will allow you to kill quite a few of them. More corpses being yoinked in the meantime. We are now going to see the steeled arrows being picked up. And the walls coming out from France. Interesting play. So, BC is trying to secure himself a retracted economy. What he wants to do is, as these trees are taken down as well, he wants to wall across all the southern front and then build his farms all back here, right, behind his base. That's what he's, like, aiming for, and then keep his military infrastructure at the front of his base. It means that the longbows are too slow to easily push in, and on top of it, they're going to have palisade walls to ensure they can never move in. Let's see if he's quick enough with this, though. Pokes in. Fires a few arrows off, not able to find the target. And in the meantime, second state went out for BC as well as an archery range. So he's quickly going to reach the required amount of knights to run you through. It's important as a result of this that Marine Lord keeps pushing out the spearmen as he has been doing so far. And we will now see a slightly fragile point in Marine Lord's economy, or usually, right? At this stage in the game, it's very hard to make this transition into farmlands. But look at the wood numbers, the income, up to 700 a minute means he's fully covered on this, right? It's all comped on the house because he went for that second TC so early. Well, more of these knights coming out. Remember, only 29 seconds as opposed to 35, courtesy of that networking factor that he's got going his way. Now, oh, moving in. He catches BC not looking. And he's going to lose a lot of these villagers. Didn't get the final salvo out. I think that was 2, maybe almost 3 taken out there. Should have been 3, possibly 4, the way that BC wasn't looking. But Micro not quite on point. A surprisingly rare statement about Marine Lord. And now with this almost fully garrison with scouts, I mean, you could just move in and poke if you want to. Just wait for him to not look. And I think that's what he's doing, right? Look, he sees the knights on the back. He'll react first, and then he should be able to push in. But he's not in position to do it right now. And that's what you're looking for. You want to catch your opponent looking at your base, then drag into his, then defend yours, and then, like, retract back from any damage you do to the Villi lines, right? That's the back and forth. That's the beauty of Age of Empires. When you have harassment on both sides, it's who can juggle and focus on multiple areas of the map quicker. So Knights will get away. Remember, Chivalry has been researched, so they will very slowly recuperate their health. Should be around 1 a second. Went out of combat for, I can't remember how many seconds it is. I think it's almost, I want to say, is it 10 seconds? Well, this Royal Knight is still not healing. And Chivalry has been researched. Ah, there we go. I felt a little bit more delayed than it should have been. Probably wrong, though. Sometimes it feels like it's almost instant. I think we've all been there when we're chasing down a knight and then we're just seeing the plus signs above their head. It's never a good feeling. It's no surprise everyone called for the nerfs as hard as they did. I think that, more than anything, made the French Knight Rush just absolutely vile. And what on earth is going on with the bows? Well, some people carry them. They like to wear them. It's very kind of, you know, it's very accessory. It's very kind of stylish. You know, he's up against French. French, they are known for looking fancy. Well, guess what? Look at us English people with our longbow hats. We look very pretty. They just love it when the animations take a break from working. Right, now Knight's moving out. How many spears? 13 spears right now. They are in hardened status. And you're going to feel how hard the poking is. Already loses 2 of the Knights. Nice play on the Stealth Forest. Really well played there. Such an important but small detail. Meanwhile, the raid round the back, really effective here. Straight in Marine Lord. Now behind BC on the eco front. And so much exposed economy here. And not enough spearmen to defend them. He's going to lose several of the villagers. This is such a good play from BC. Even if he loses the Knights, they've already kind of eked out their value, right? He needs to be microing them, though. Missed opportunity to go for more. He doesn't know, though, right? He doesn't see what we see, which is there's a ridiculous quantity of farms here that is incredibly greedy at Marine Lord, and he's somehow got away with it. Knights will ride away, charge in, nice snipe out another. And a big surprising factor to consider here is that you're up against France, and you didn't get textiles. Right? Like, you just saw textiles complete. He literally just got it. But it's too late. He already took the hit. Meanwhile, France, not as concerned with it, right? Goes up to Castle Age, doesn't need textiles, and now he's booming ahead. Meanwhile, Marine Lord, he doesn't have the gold for a tech up right now. He's lagging behind hard. And I like the idea to drop the marketplace, by the way. He's going to have huge surpluses of food. Remember, you get that quicker gather rate on these farms as England. So he just wants to utilize that. A wonky placement there. So he just wants to utilize that surplus food to get quicker into the castle stage build up. If he hits that, he should be able to scale more. Now with the walls in place, he shouldn't be vulnerable anymore. And this will allow him to now TC boom up, right? Because he's going to go for that third one when he gets his hands on the King's Palace. As you almost always go for King's Palace as England. There it is. Forward one next to the gold vein. And won't take him long to build. Moves 15 workers onto it. I like this play. It seems a bit over the top, a bit overkill in the build. But you understand you're behind, especially after that strike into your economy lines. If it was before that occurred, if that never occurred, right, you probably put 8 villagers on at max. But considering the hit you took, you need to replace these villagers quicker. And that's why he invests 15 people. Understand that when he's behind on the eco front now and the tech age, you can't hang around. Beastie. Now with so much safe compound behind his base, right? He's now building a monastery looking to gather. This is a cool idea that we don't usually see utilized outside of the powerhouse nations when it comes to religion, right? Which is, for those wondering, the order would be Rus, HRE, and then Delhi. Sorry, HRE, you're second. What can I say? Having warrior monks is kind of better than everything else. But yes, outside of those top 3, we don't see many of these civs play into religion at all. I think that Mongols are low-key kind of interesting, but not utilized enough. Mainly due to the fact that they can move the temple around, right? So you could basically quickly collect and then shift across to different locations and prep for, you know, multiple relic pickups at the same time. But the cool thing about this is that England shouldn't contest him. And they can't, right? The power spike that you have as BC is you not only teched up first, but you have knights in the field. It means that you're able to prowl and patrol. Your opponent is unlikely to do the same to the same degree. It means you can sneak out and gather at least 3 of these relics pretty much uncontested. Probably 4, in fact, when you look at the split up, right? Here, here, and here, they're all central, slightly lean towards Beastie, and that does give him an edge in that regard. Look at the difference now. Beastie up to 85 villages. Off the back of that huge dent he put into his opponent in conjunction with the 16-second generation time now in villages. Remember how powerful this is, by the way, guys. He has 2 TCs. He's saving 4 seconds each. That's 8 seconds overall being saved. And while your opponent does have 3 TCs, you have to equate that it's like a 12-second differential, right? So you're not actually being bled on the eco front as quickly as other civs would be. You're able to hang around 2 CCs, and at this stage in the game, you should reach that critical mass of between 105 to like 130 eco at a point where Marine Lord is just about arriving at it as well, which means you're not at a disadvantage at all. Wolfie's getting involved. England needs every little bit of help it can get. There's no denying that Marine Lord is behind right now. He needs to find some sort of leverage here. He needs a network. We talked about the network of castles and how powerful it can be. It could actually give him the edge in the next few fights if he starts to plop it down. At the moment, he hasn't bothered, and it's because it's already in place via the TCs, and he's not pushing out past the TC line, so he doesn't need it just yet, but he will soon. One pesky knight still in the back. Not for long, though. Will be sniped out. Just so much farmland to be exploited here. On the other side, we haven't seen similar, right? If you look across, BC hasn't switched over to farmlands yet. So there is a weak point in his economy, and I like that he's prepped for it. Look at the wood surplus. Over 1,000 surplus wood means he's prepped to actually go for a hard pivot into hard farming economies when needed. But for the moment, he's sustaining himself via the berry bushes. And of course, via the remaining sheep, which is about to drop soon as well. Knights riding around the back, looking for an entrance once more. Problem is you don't burn these walls down quick enough, right? They're only palisades, yes, but it takes you too long. By the time you're through them, your opponent can actually react. But there is a prep right now. Look at this. So Strelbora, aka Beastie, has got a Mangonel out. Will force his opponent away. And more importantly, look at the stone numbers. He's gathering stones, so he's prepped to start dropping aggressive keeps or setting up 4 bases for that discount. Because remember, when you're under the influence of the keeps, it does drop the price, as you can see. Wait, you can't see it there, can we? Basically, you get a 20% saving on the cost of your units, your archer units, and your cavalry units if they are networked next to a keep. Pretty big deal. This one is different. This is the reduced research as well. And the quicker production rates. Yeah, you can see it there. There you go. influence, unit production costs reduced by 20%. That's what you're looking for. Right now, you're getting that near here, near your base, but if you want to have a forward base, you're going to have to drop a keep to keep that effect going. And Beastie. Well, he thinks he's being a smart cookie. However, the code has been cracked. Marine Lord knows what's coming. Spears move out, and straight away, Beastie needs to turn and run. Remember, these are vet spearmen right now. They start to hit pretty hard at this stage. If you're ever wondering what the numbers are and how they scale, look at that. 10 plus 23 to cavalry. 33 damage per stab every 1.75 seconds. And remember, if they get close enough, they begin to charge. So they boost their movement speed past that 1.25 per second. Mangonels and Springles. Marine Lord being his opponent to the punchline. Knights are chasing in. Remember, this hasn't been counted yet. There's no Arbiter coming out yet from Beastie. So Knights will move in on top of the Mangonel. Will burn it down. He's going to lose one. He might lose a second as well. Big mistake turning around for the salvo. But Greased Axles comes out just in time, allowing him to move quicker. We'll get him away. But he has lost the forward outpost, and there is a move in. I would love to see a move up with a villager right now to put down an outpost. But Marine Lord is just too mobile. He doesn't feel the need to stand still yet. Mangonel shot is very underwhelming here. And Springald almost getting the pick off on that Mangonel. And so much ground is being forfeited right now by Beastie. Where did that rock? Did that de-render? I swear the rocks from that Mangonel de-rendered. That was a bit funky. Springald's almost got this though. He's about to lose the Mangonel. And now you can clump up all you want. Marine Lord has the edge here. We'll back off for the moment as the archers just keep cutting him out. Remember, the longbowmen move slower than the archers, so they're not able to gap close. And now there are Arbiter coming out for Beastie. So Beastie might be able to hold at this rate. Mangonel is still somewhat protected, though, and that's the problem. He could hit the villager line, but he's being greedy. He's trying to go for something else, and this is problematic because, remember, Marine Lord, he didn't research Greased Axles. He's not moving this quicker than his opponent is, right? So you can see how quick it is for the Springals to move in for Beastie compared to his opponent. Trade-outs are fairly even at the moment, but they're starting to lean the way of Marine Lord again as Beastie is hanging around too long here. And the longbows are almost joining in the fight. The melees do engage with the ranged line. And although he tries to start a step and back this up, Beastie's losing the main battalion. The only good side is there's going to be barely anything left for Marine Lord afterwards to siege you with. And in some ways, he done him a favor. Beastie was like, oh, maybe I was hanging around on the archers too long. He's starting to shift heavily into the Arbiters now, and that means that Marine Lord needs to fully back away. Now Marine Lord, what's the switch up going to be? He has got Trebs coming in. This is a very slow play, though. Compared to like getting into like a Mangonel to Greased Axles and then building back rams to the field, it's going to take you a long time to arrive. This kind of screams of we're heading for Imperial Age long term, right? When you see that kind of opening. Where you, in this stage of the game, you're like, okay, I need to build Trebs. It doesn't feel good because they siege so slowly. The only way Trebs work really well is against very static forces. I don't like seeing them against cavalry-based civs. The other detail to keep in mind is that while you pushed him back to his base, Beastie pushed out on the flanks and took all 3 of the sacred sites and is guarding one of them with a keep. Big deal, by the way, because remember, Marine Lord, he's also going to start running out of resources in his own base. You can already see he's almost picked all the gold dry, one at the back still. He's going to be forced out towards the center, and his opponent has already got the edge in terms of placing down these keeps, and that is why you see a switchover right now. Rams being built, Treb getting in location for Marine Lord. And remember, in the meantime, Beastie, he needs to rebuild what he lost. Will he be ready is the question. Oh, he's going to have to act fast if he wants to be. Baton Rams are already on their way in. Decap on the southern sacred site means no pressure now on Marine Lord as the control is no longer there for Beastie, and Beastie is now marching out, and Marine Lord seems to have a very drunk trebuchet here. That's going to be a free 250 gold, 500 wood for Beastie to just clean up and take away from Marine Lord. Yeah, I think you forgot about that one, folks. Bit wonky. Baton Rams doing what they can. Trebs trying to snipe out into the village is going to be a fail, though. He needs to move in with a few troops here to clean them up. This isn't good enough for the Baton Rams just yet. Oh, no. And he's going to start losing them because he's not in here with the archers. He's hesitant. And he should be right now. Now is a bad time. Look at this wrap. Knights move in. They see the exposed longbowmen. And these longbowmen will get rinsed by just a few of these knights. And we're seeing the wonky stage of the game for England. You don't want to switch over to crossbowmen. You love your longbowmen too much. And this is where you can suffer. Spears do re-engage. try to back up the longbowmen who are exposed right now, but the archers do arrive to clean them up themselves. Keep, in the meantime, is slowly being burnt down, but it's holding strong. And it looks like Marine Lord is going to lose the army. He's running out of places to run, stuck between that rock and a hard place. He'll be pushed all the way back to his base. In the meantime, there was a small raid in the south in towards the infrastructure, but it doesn't find any of the eco. And that's important, right? You're not shutting down the rate at which BC is gathering resources, which is not slowing him down. But Marine Lord, in the meantime, is covered. Look what he's doing right now. He's almost complete with the tech up. He's building the Berkshire Palace, and he's centralizing it to cover the center's fold so he can push north. There it is, tech up now there. Meanwhile, BC not ready for that just yet. And Beastie doesn't really have the kind of sizable army you'd like to see to show for the fact of how far behind he is. Plenty of gold, not enough food, though, to go for the tech. And it's because he's in the middle of the switchover, right? He drained all the berry bushes dry, and it meant that his food income actually dropped by a substantial amount for a minute or two, right? As he was switching over into this farmland economy. Two Mangonels, two Springalds, siege weapons. Yep, there it is. So that's what we're waiting for. So Marine Lord now able to get a head start on the bombards. BC has a wonky situation. Right, he has a dangerous minute or two ahead of him, depending on how quickly Marine Lord is to move across. It was very important that he backstabbed that army. Had he failed to do so, and we were in this situation that we are in right now, with those additional units still alive for Marine Lord is going to be pushing for your base and pushing for an end. This gives Beastie at least another minute of breathing time, which allows him to catch up. And you can see he already almost has the required quantity of food to boost up into that Imperial Age. Still this small group of man-at-arms, now in elite status, hitting pretty hard for 15 damage each. And he might find a small eco pocket to snipe at the back of the base here. But he is waiting. Oh, and they only just see him. Beastie, it's like he hasn't even noticed this. Or maybe he has, but he's running the army all the way back home. You're kind of happy with that if you're Marine Lord, right? It's so much wasted time. And it's going to be College Artillery coming out for the French player here. Remember, the College Artillery before, it didn't give the plus 20% bonus damage to the Royal units. That has been fixed since the Springle patch. So we do see that actually working now. There you go. Man-at-arms will be sniped down in the end. Few of them chasing into the Villies, but the Villies already served their purpose. The gold is drained dry. Meanwhile, Knights looking to sneak in. Remember, Marine Lord, he never walled this off properly. And it means they're going to breach straight away. And this could cause anarchy. 8 Knights in. He'll ride deep. He'll look for a target. Not able to see them just yet. Too late. And remember, he still hasn't seen these other farms. He's going to spot them now. The question is whether Marine Lord's going to react in time. Marine Lord. Oh, no. Oh, no. No, this is too late. He might lose several of these villagers. Strikes down one. Second one. No. Missed opportunity. BC, the hesitation. Not marking quick enough means he misses the opportunity to get 3 or 4 and then cycle to the back, which if he does it quick enough, he might still pick off a lot of these stone miners. Beastie not doing it. Too late. Missed opportunity here. Does give him the time to actually go and cap all the sacred sites, though, and now he has a keep in the south as well as the north, so pressure continues to mount from Marine Lord, and this is the mistake he's fixing now. This should have been happening 2, 3, 4 minutes ago. The walls not being there left you open to this possibility the entire time. Had you actually had these walls up, your opponent wouldn't have been able to breach so quickly. You wouldn't be playing a game of Benny Hills in your own base, and you probably still have your military force on the front line and pushing forward towards your opponent's base. And these small details can't be understated, right? It's incredibly important what BC just done there. He buys himself another minute or two, which allows him to catch up on the quality front, right? Allows him to get the tech ups, allows him to get these improvements for his arbors, for his knights, and more importantly, start to push out his own cannon units. As you can see, he's already started to prep into those culverins. Reason you go culverins over bombards here, by the way, is your opponent is now the one who needs to siege through things. You need to defend them. Remember, you have all of the sacred sites at this stage, and so many arbors. Look at the arbor count. He should just drop the Pavisi. If he drops the Pavisi, he can hold ground. But instead, he just backs up. We'll re-engage now. Mangonel's pushing through to force those longbowmen back. Missed opportunity here, though. Beastie could be losing a lot less troops if he just stood his ground and used the Pavis. He's now standing, but he's not using Pavis at all. I think this is a very heavily underutilized element of a lot of players' French builds in the late game. The Pavis, for those that are wondering, as you can see there, for 30 seconds, it gives you 5 ranged armor as long as you stand still, right? That's the important detail, though, and that's why a lot of players don't engage with it, is they don't like to stand still. They want to micro, they want to start a step up, but the reality is, in this type of situation, unless you're up against Mangonels, keeping your unit standing still when they're being hit in the face by the man-at-arms like that is actually beneficial and will allow you to save an additional, I'd say, 5, 6, maybe even 7 of these arbors compared to what you did. There we go. Bombard, 23 man-at-arms, 17 longbowmen. He needs to make a stand here. He needs to fight back. He can't allow his opponent to just dominate these sacred sites. It's not just the fact it applies pressure to you. It does it not only in terms of win condition, but also economically. Because remember, your opponent, he's building up gold from this. An extra 300 gold per minute. And in fact, if we look at the income per minute, Marine Lord is ahead. But when we look at the gold count, 8 people for Beastie compared to the 10. Now, I've got a feeling, if I look, someone has been researching the gathering rates. He has. And if I look at someone else, the person with the economical benefits that can research them cheaper has also? All these numbers do not make sense then. There we go. It's kicking up again. He'd only just got the people across. Yeah, they were running across map, which is why he has to hold his keep. And for the moment, he's holding. In this choke point, not enough men-at-arms are able to attack onto the Arbalatriers, and it means the Arbalatriers are going to be able to wipe out the English men-at-arms. Culverin snipe around the side as well. Second shot, not able to get out on the bombard. And that's the front line gone for Marine Lord. He's going to have to back up here. Meanwhile, villagers. Wait, did he just... Was that all of them? No. Just 3 or 4 of them. Most of them are still here to actually gather up the gold. And this is what we're talking about. Now you'll see this number just spike right up past Marine Lords. And it means you're able to keep fielding the Knights and the Arbalatriers. The question is, Marine Lord, will he ever have a switch up? Will he ever have any diversification? Because I feel like if you're just going to keep building longbowmen and man-at-arms, you're going to lose this fight. Every time. And remember, he needs the gold to keep pushing Mangonels. The problem is, with his opponent now pushing out Royal Culverins, it's too easy to snipe them. Double bombards, just trying to probe. Too many villages nearby again, though. If anything, he could have tried to sneak in the south. And oh my, what? What is this play? Okay, Marine Lord, I'm a fan. Beastie's distracted. He's getting pings about the north. He doesn't notice this going down the south. And remember, this keep will rapido fire onto these troopers here, or these villagers rather, as they try to run away. They feel like troopers in the trench. Well, there's a few on the retreat, and more importantly, securing that much-needed gold. Because remember, the gold is becoming the limiting factor on this map now. And it's exactly why Marine Lord resumes the siege in the north. This time up against the Royal Knights, though. And now the hand cannon is coming out from Beastie, a.k.a. Stray Albora here. Means he will make quick work of these man-at-arms. And remember, still nothing to deal with clumping. There's no anti-clump to this composition for England. He doesn't have access to the Mangonels, and that is a problem. Loses so many troops on the front line. More Knights pushing out so bloody quickly here. Only 21 seconds to churn them out. And not that expensive either, with that discount coming out from the influence of the keep. And these the Knights are going to start to overrun. They're trying to reach into the bombard line. They're already getting right on top of the archers. Even a composition of horsemen in here to counter out those longbowmen specifically. In the meantime, the arbors and the hand cannoneers work together to clean up the man-at-arms as they are held back by just a small hand of Knights. Once again, although he does have this keep, and then yes, he does have that attack speed buff, it feels like he's never able to gain any footing against Beastie. Mangonel not even looking like it's going to die. Instead, it's going to send some rocks in just before it does, though the bombard snipes it out. Would have been a big deal. That would have been half the longbowmen just eliminated in the burst. Keeps him alive for the moment. It keeps churning out these troops, hoping to hold the front line. But you're noticing it, aren't you, folks? You're noticing how very slowly but surely that line is moving closer and closer to Marine Lord's base. It's important he strikes elsewhere soon. Otherwise, he is going to be in dire straits. And this is why he builds a force in the south, right? 2 racks down right now, trying to snipe out the siege weapons that are trying to siege him. Royal Culver is not really the way to do this, Beastie. Meanwhile, in the north now, because he distracts his opponent on 2 fronts, Beastie, he's starting to be repelled a little bit. Remember, he did start to continue to churn out the stable units, but he didn't replace the archers because he only has stables here. He doesn't have any archery ranges, thus he was not able to get Arbalatriers into the field at the same rate as Marine Lord, who was right next to his own base. My god, this Coverin's taking a while to die. But so is his man-arms. I think he's going to get it. Yeah, he's actually going to get it. This is such a good price trade. And the Coverin, remember, the Coverins do not move away quickly. And I think he's got it. Final torch comes out. I don't know how 0 health and still rolling works, but he will kill it. Those Coverins are not cheap, by the way. Remember, they cost you a juicy 400 wood, but 600 gold. Everyone lost is a big dent. And remember, it's your rural units, right? It's only coming out of one building, so that's a slow churn out. And you want them to be the rural ones, courtesy of that extra 20% damage that they get. And with this move now, look, Siege in the south. Full distraction still in the north. It means you're going to be able to get through this keep, and then once you do, you can decap the sacred site. Something that Marine Lord needs desperately and needs it soon. Because his opponent has had control of these sacred sites for several minutes now. Meanwhile, Knights hop in. Bombard way too tanky though. That's pathetic damage. And I believe this keep is gone. Bombard's just too fast. This is attack speed, right? Remember, networking castles, it does affect you. You can see he's getting that 50% increase, which takes him from 5 seconds to 3.67 seconds per attack. Means that 1 bombard is good enough to take out a keep. Whereas usually you need 2. Now pushes in the north. Smells weakness. Into the stealth forest. Is somewhat revealed under it. But able to reach the line. It's mainly archers now. Straight Bora. What's going on, Beastie? It's like he hasn't got the gold anymore. Look at his gold. He hasn't got surplus. He's invested so much into the siege army. It means that he doesn't have Arbalatriers pushing out. Not even the knights. Which means that instead you're able to kind of gap close here. And with so few hand cannoneers, your archers alone won't be able to contest against the man-at-arms in their armor. Push through. Slows down the gold trickle again as he does find the gold vein. And starts to snipe out the villagers, already find the value out of those archers. In the meantime, the siege army being chased away by the main battalion of man-at-arms. Yes, they abandoned the main battle. Yes, they deserted it and allowed their troops to die. But they do it for the gains elsewhere. They do it for the cause. Now decap in the south. Problem for Beastie. Beastie going to have a lot of his economy sniped. Meanwhile, up in the north, he's going to back away. He's happy with what he's done here. He decapped one of the northern sacred sites. He decapped the southern one. Pressure is now off Marine Lord. He deals with the raid in the back of his base and barely loses any troops for it as well. Actually, yeah, barely any villagers. Look at the count difference. Still over 100, so Marine Lord can continue to replace these armies. The difference maker here is, although BC does have ridiculous quantities of food in reserve, he doesn't have the same to say about gold. And that's where Marine Lord is probably going to get the edge. And keep in mind that this is costly, because the thing that's been holding Marine Lord at bay so far for BC has been this composition that has included hand cannons and arbalatriers en masse. When you start to run out of gold, you start to run out the ability to field those. Because remember, the arbors, yes, they only cost 40 gold. Wow, that's reasonable. But then we look across at the hand cannon is 120 gold as well as food. Pricey, damn pricey unit. Even wood lines becoming very scarce now. I think wood has been drained dry, and this is the worrying part as well as Beastie. This wood surplus will run out just as quickly as the gold now. You expanded into the south for your wood, not the north. He's trying to fix that somewhat now, dropping keeps here to protect the gold veins. He'll probably move his wood lines up here as well. But remember, it's a 2 TC, so it's going to take a while to replace what you just lost, even when it is down to 16 seconds per villager produced. Trip roll cannon moving in. We'll start to cap the sacred site. I say that, he needs to move the priest onto it. He can't right now, though, because the outpost, which he hasn't sniped just yet. Because he's distracted. He's busy looking at the north. A fight again. And the spear line is too strong. Cavalry tries to wrap around, but only a few of them here. Your main line is going to be cleaned up, and then they will fold forward onto your archer line. And look how quickly they pick you apart with the fire arrows. 14 damage per shot from the longbows, with the network of castles buff coming into effect half the time here. Because remember, when you get that close, you're actually triggering this buff that comes out from the keep, right? If you stay at range, that's at least not the case. But now, losing the forward base by the looks of it, as he's still outnumbered. BC barely any troops left here. Moving these royal cannons over could backfire. Well, actually, these ones are just normie cannons, forced to build into multiple siege workshops to try and keep up the war machine. And he'll push Marine Lord back for a moment. Marine Lord actually showing a little bit of respect here. But once again, a good trade. A keep soon to fall. Final bombard shot to come out. Not enough villages to keep it up. And that means that juicy discount you've been getting as the French is now gone on all of these stables. Play for Beastie, he does have the stone required to replace it once. Twice would be a problem, though. And also this charge fall. This is a bit silly. This is a little bit greedy. It's going to allow an opportunity for Marine Lord to turn around and run back at you. This is fine. You don't want to call it a draw? I'll become the victor. Moves in. Line's being cleaned up somewhat fast, though. However, now that it's down to the man-at-arms, the man-at-arms is going to hold. No arbiter here, remember, so no armor-piercing damage. Means decent trades, even for the remainders, as they run away with the archers once more. All the while, just starting to build up that infrastructure, moving to the center of the map as well. The keeps to cover this expansion. Everything is safe right now for Marine Lord. BC can't say the same. He might have to actually just surrender over this northern base, and that's hard to do, right? His wood is a limiting factor. If he loses all these military production buildings, how's he going to replace them quickly? Answer, probably not. You're probably never going to get to. Because this game could be over if you don't keep this push out of units up 24/7. We're seeing him utilize the food quite well, right? In the Knights, there's always a mixture of horsemen, but the horsemen becoming somewhat irrelevant. The power of the elite spearmen from the English cannot be underestimated. Now starting to reach the primary base. Tries to do the same to his opponent on the other side. Cannons in place. Keep trying to keep this up, though. These troops pushing out here. It's only a small battalion from the French, so probably unlikely to do that much damage pushing deeper. Meanwhile, a wrap around a small group of spears onto the villager line will stab out a lot of BC's effective economy. This is really the only place he's primarily getting gold right now. And that could cause problems. Meanwhile, running rampant in the primary base, trying to reach into those eco pockets where he can. And he has repelled most of the French. He did lose one of the keeps, yes, but the Knights aren't here anymore, right? It's just horsemen. These horsemen against these powerful longbowmen, the elite longbowmen, are not good enough. And look at the difference in damage, right? 14 to the 11. And that's before we talk about the additional range the longbowmen have. Yeah, you can start to see problems emerging for the French player here. Man, England just proving their power in the late game, right? We talked about this before. A lot of people kind of get baited into England as this super early game civ, but as we're seeing here, when you get into this late game slog, when everything gets drained and you have to go back to basics, they have the edge. Spears and longbowmen trounce most types of units that cost the same, right? Those non-gold type units. And it's very hard for France to match up because their quality timing is castle leading into the start of Imperial. They're looking to end the game before all the gold veins are contested and there's barely anything left, right? They want to make sure they can get that quality unit type out, those knights, so arbaletriers, maybe even some hand cannoneers, because if they have to fall back to normie archers and crappy spearmen, they are at a sheer disadvantage here. Now pushing in. There's those military production buildings we were talking about that he couldn't afford to lose. They're burning to cinders. Meanwhile, in his base, still running small contingents through, causing issues and sniping out economy. It's a group of spearmen and man-at-arms from Marine Lord. And now, 65 eco units compared to the 101. And Beastie running out of things to justify here. Running out of ways to say, I need to replace these villages, right? Because he doesn't have the military force to repel his opponent. So just pushing out villages feels almost worthless because they keep getting sniped. Now pushing past the keeps. Doesn't care about that. Straight into the military force, trying to wipe out those armies. Onto the central branch here of trees as well, just trying to pick dry what little is left. Marine Lord, I mean, it looked dodgy, it looked dicey. It almost looked like Beastie was going to get himself a sacred site victory, but now it looks like Marine Lord might get himself a victory through force over religion. And this just trailblazing effect of moving past deeper, deeper as he goes, forcing more ground to be forfeited by Beastie. And this is, this is a hard situation. You've got barely any stone left to work with. These keep drops are ineffective. Trying to protect your northern economy might just expose your central base. And I think we're at a stage, if he loses this contingent, if he loses the cannon somehow, I think Beastie just calls it, because I just don't see how you're going to be able to keep replacing them. In fact, if you get sniped out before this keep goes up, good lord. But it looks like he should be safe on this one. However, he won't be safe for long. This was his Hail Mary, his backup plan. He knows that he needs to keep influence, he needs to keep these units cheap. But this big army, this replacement army, already on its way in from Marine Lord, could actually just shut Beastie out of the game entirely. No flanking attacks, just moving north with plenty of bombards. And this is the difference, Marine Lord. He's been saving all of his goodies for a rainy day, and now he's ready to cash in with the quadruple. Make that 5 bombards pushing in to the military expansion out of the Frenchman here is probably going to shut BC out of the game. And this is a lesson hard fought and hard learned for BC. You do not whip out France against the Frenchman because he knows exactly how to shut you down. And he's doing it in styles, England. Bombard smashing in. Keep not long for the world. And I just don't see how the archers mop up the remaining man-at-arms quick enough here with the trickling continuing. This game looks like it is set and matched for Marine Lord. And what a showing. What a way to bounce back. What an opening. What a way to deny the early carcasses, allowing for that quicker boom timing for France. What a way to hold them in the mid-game. And what timing, what patience shown around capturing those sacred sites, taking them back, and then clawing your way back into this game by stripping your opponent of the midfield advantage, giving you the edge even with static force over the mobility and firepower of France.